Hello. Um, I just received a comment on my last video, or a couple videos ago, and it sparked this idea of conversation that I want to have. The comment was a part of the comment was asking if I had a doctor during the time when I was in toxic mold, and I do get people asking that question a lot, or asking me, how do I find a doctor? Or how did you find a doctor who could help you? And all of that. And I think um, I don't ever mean to alarm people with my response, but I don't know that a doctor is the best route to go when trying to heal with toxic mold. I don't think that that's maybe the best thing to even try to look for necessarily. Um, in my experience, I was very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that it was an act of God, in fact, that I had the doctor that I had, because as I was in the beginning stages of toxic mold, like the very beginning, like I didn't even know that I had toxic mold yet, I had a different doctor. And of course, throughout my life, I've had various doctors. And all nice, great. This doctor was friendly, nice enough. But they're all extremely unhelpful. Like I don't I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but um, I've yet to meet, besides the last doctor that I had, a doctor who is willing to put in any work. So uh, with my past doctors, I'm anemic. It wasn't until recently that I even realized that I had multiple, or not that I have, but that there are in existence multiple types of anemia. No idea. I had no clue that there were multiple types of anemia. I was told growing up, oh, you're anemic. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, um, okay, you're anemic, even though there's so many types of anemia. I had no idea. I always had low iron, and always. And I would always tell my doctors going in, like if I would get a new doctor, I would always tell them that going in. Like I always score low on iron, or almost always. And if I'm not scoring low on iron when you do my blood tests, it's just typically because I've been really good at taking my iron that month. But typically, almost always, very low. And none of them have ever asked why I was low in iron. And none of them had ever brought up the concept that there were multiple types of anemia. I think my previous doctor had asked, like, what type of anemia? And I think that puzzled me, but I don't really remember. Again, I was battling toxic mold, so, but, yeah, I mean, none of them had ever asked. And throughout my life, I had adrenal fatigue, like pretty severe, I would say, adrenal fatigue. Very difficult going to bed at a decent hour, constant fight or flight. My lower back would be in pain. Um, I also wasn't taking care of my adrenals at all, so, but nobody had ever mentioned adrenal fatigue to me at all, even though I would explain to them all of the symptoms that I was having that match adrenal fatigue. None of them seemed that concerned. It's also interesting because, like, growing up, I was a chubby kind of a kid, and a lot of the times that was their solution is, well, maybe lose weight for pretty much everything. Or like, oh, she'll probably, as she grows, she'll probably lose the weight, and like almost like that was the issue for everything. And give it a couple years and it'll all go away because you're going to be skinny. And then I was in my early 20s. I was underweight, in fact. And they never mentioned my weight then, even though I was underweight. And they never were concerned with my health issues. They were just like, oh, she's a little sleepy, I don't know. Try exercising, I guess. Just build muscle or whatever. It's like, okay, sometimes what do you want me to do about it, pretty much? Which, I mean, maybe that's not everybody's experience. Maybe other people, well, actually, I know a lot of people in this world have the money to afford a functional medicine doctor, which is great. But most people don't. So it's that was just my experience with doctors throughout my life. Until God blessed me so greatly with the doctor that I had at the beginning. Because I had one right at the beginning of toxic mold where I didn't even know that I had toxic mold at all. And she was just there briefly. And then I had a different doctor, the doctor who sparked my healing journey. I got her when I started to see a little bit more symptoms. Oh, my fatigue is getting to a point that I've never experienced before. It is almost it feels almost impossible for me to wake up. At this point, I think it was maybe 2 p.m. It eventually, at my worst, got to be 6 p.m. Impossible for me to wake up before 6 p.m. That was at my worst in toxic mold. But early on, I think it was 2 p.m. I would say it just felt impossible for me to do that. And it was there were moments where I felt like it was impossible for me to shut my brain off. And there were moments, I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about here, but it didn't feel like it was impossible for me to shut my brain off necessarily, but there were moments where it felt like I forgot how to sleep. My body didn't even know how that process went. It was and then I just am awake. That's just how I live my life. Which was very scary. There were moments where I felt that, and it was a little terrifying. So there was that. And what else? The brain fog was getting super bad. My memory was escaping me to high degrees. And when I went to the doctor before this, I was experiencing a lot of depression from other issues. And so when I mentioned all of these things, she didn't take it seriously. She was kind of okay, she's a little sad. Cool, get happy, essentially. And then I went to this doctor, and she, I did mention the depression, but when I started mentioning my other symptoms, she was like, okay, so the depression is one thing, but that also could be a symptom. And okay, these other things are making me think that it's something more. She really started to question, or not question me, but question what was going on and find the deeper root of this. That was her whole thing, is we really should find the deeper root. And even when I told her, this already sent off I'm in safe hands with this doctor. Was right away, I always tell every doctor, I have anemia. I always score low on iron levels. It's just how it is. And her first question was I wonder why that is. And I think she did ask, did mention that there was many different types of anemia, which type. But she said, okay, well, we're gonna solve this first, this issue that you're having, because this is quite serious, and then we're gonna get to the anemia, which didn't sadly ever happen, because she did have to leave me in 2020 to go help with that whole mess. But I appreciated that she was okay, we're gonna work on this first, but the anemia does need to be addressed. We need to find the root of this and why you're experiencing this. because it's not normal for a body to experience anemia, which right away I was like, oh, no doctor has ever said that to me, ever. But yeah, as I was explaining my symptoms to her, and especially the memory loss was very huge, because I was noticing just completely blanking out on the most obvious things, when previously I had an amazing memory, above average memory. I could remember conversations to a T, what I wore what I wore different days in middle school. Like, pick a day, I could be like, okay, I wore this, and I went to this class, and this person stopped me in the hall. Like, I had a very vivid memory, and it was degrading at a rapid rate, to where I couldn't remember things that happened recently or in the past. It was very hard for me during that time. And so I brought all of that stuff up to her. And at the same time, my mom was mirroring a lot of the same symptoms that I was. And then the weight gain began, which was such a blessing that she had already been my doctor for a short amount of time, and then we started gaining weight, because it's just, like, it was just awesome having her be able to visualize and see with her own eyes, like, oh, she started out being underweight, now she's gained 100 pounds within the short amount of time that I've seen her. That's insane. Like I've said before, she literally said, the only way that this would be possible is if you were to eat McDonald's for every single meal. And even then, this wouldn't be possible. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I'm vegan and I eat less than 800 calories a day. Funny you say that. It was just kind of crazy, which was the case for me at the time. I was eating very little and very little nutrition, which already, sent a lot of stress on my body, which, didn't help my adrenals, which probably didn't help the weight gain, but it would have been impossible for me to gain that much weight within a couple of months. Wild. So there's that. She just really started to ask these questions, and she came up with the idea that this could be an external issue. One of her first thoughts was toxic mold. And, it's funny because we were experiencing weird things going on with our roof, and then it was around this time, or maybe shortly after this, that our roof officially started leaking, and it just was this whole ordeal, whole mess. But it was toxic mold, and she clocked it, and she knew it, which was helpful. But, she didn't know what to do about toxic mold either. This was a new territory to her. And most doctors don't know about toxic mold. And that's just the thing, So when people ask me, how do you find a good doctor? How do you find somebody who can help with toxic mold? I was very fortunate to have this doctor who was very curious, right? But honestly, I am very grateful for the information that she kickstarted for us, and my healing journey and my research. But realistically, she didn't know either. And I don't think most doctors are willing to deep dive the way that she did. I'm not hopeful that many doctors will. And I'm also not willing to bet that they would, even if they did deep dive, that they would find the right information, because this took me years to understand. And years to find the proper ways to heal, or beneficial ways to heal. It's just, and I say that not to scare anybody into thinking that this is like a hopeless situation, because it's not. The truth is that you can heal on your own. You can heal with your own research. I found things that helped me along the way, and they quite possibly could help you. My Facebook page is Healing from Toxic Mold. It has my face, so you'll be able to see the profile picture is me. And if you send me a DM, like a private message on that page, like I can send you everything that I did to heal, because I wrote it all down, all of the things that I researched. I didn't do all of the things at once because financially I couldn't afford that. So I did a few things consistently, and then when I was financially able, I would like, okay, I'll try this little tea, I'll do this little supplement, I'll do this little method, you know, whatever. But I really did much of the bulk on my own, and with the help of my mom, of course, too. But that was it. Like, my doctor was helpful in the fact that she was willing to look into stuff and that she used her best knowledge to help us when she could. But the bulk of our sickness was spent after 2020. Like, we were very sick in 2020 when she was helping us. But, you know, we were sick well after 2022, and so TOO, not 2022. So there was a great deal of time where, you know, we were just healing on our own without her help. She never saw me healthy. And that's, you know, kind of crazy to think about, but it's true. So she did help me by letting me know that binders are useful. I would almost say crucial for healing from toxic mold. A binder is something that binds up toxins in the body. Because toxic mold, from my understanding, sort of has these fibrous-like structures where they grip on from all different angles, and it's like, you know, it's very small too, so it's like they're gripping on from all of these different areas and they sprawl out. That's from my understanding, or my visual understanding. And a binder is going to go through your system and completely bind all of that up, like taking it with it and drawing it out of you. And so when you take a binder, of course, drinking plenty of water is highly necessary, or else this stuff is just going to spend too much time, like in your colon and stuff, pretty much, or in your body in certain areas, and just keep drawing out even necessary things sometimes, depending on the binder. And you know, her suggestion was charcoal, activated charcoal. And I, thank God I never took it at the time. It works. I'll say this much. Activated charcoal works. But I'm very glad that I didn't take it at the time, because I was starting to feel like I was an absolute zombie. It was hell on earth. And I felt like if I had experienced any more symptoms, any more stress on my body, I was like, I don't know how it can get much worse. I would have been bedridden, and I practically already was. So it's like I just didn't know how that was gonna happen. And I was a little scared to take charcoal because I knew that it is extremely fast acting and harsh on your body. And so I didn't take it for a little while. And I tried, you know, doing other things. And so me waiting to take the charcoal kind of helped, because then I started researching other binders and found bentonite clay, which is also a binder. It is actually helpful to your body. It gives you added nutrients. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I would have to look that up. But it has added benefits to your body instead of just stripping all of them like charcoal does. And it's slower moving, which some people don't want. But the thing is if you use something fast moving, that's not always beneficial. Sometimes something fast moving and fast acting is shocking to your body. And you want to add something shocking and intense when your body's already going through hell. Like, no. Not for me anyway. I'd rather be very gentle with myself and let my body repair itself with it instead of just being shocked by it. But anyway, bentonite clay is also a binder, so it binds up these toxins and removes them and flushes them out while adding benefits to your body. And it's slower moving, and so it takes its time. It's not stripping your body of nutrients, which activated charcoal oftentimes does. Like, activated charcoal does its job, but it also doesn't know what it's doing. Like, it knows what it's doing, but it doesn't know, like it's just taking all things. Like, it's going, like, I'm binding it all up, and it's like, you don't want to have something that's just going to bind up everything, because your body's already needing so many of these nutrients. It's holding on to the little nutrients that it can. And so it's like, you don't want to remove those from your body. Anyway, that was my thinking on that. But she didn't know. I think a lot of people recommend activated charcoal. A lot of people do, as their number one binder to bind up toxic mold. And it's like, I don't blame her. I don't blame her for that. When I was researching this, that's the most common thing that I would see too. I, of course, consider myself quite crunchy, which essentially just means it's like an almond type of person, granola, just quite natural. Like, I like to do things the most natural way for my body. And so there's also, other things that people take that are, like, prescribed to them and stuff. I'm just very thankful that I found bentonite clay. And everything that I did is natural. Everything that I tried. So, there's natural ways to do, I think, everything. And I also don't think that you need a doctor to heal from toxic mold. If you feel more comfortable asking your doctor, go right ahead. Or if you already have a doctor, talking with them about it. But I just, I don't know. I don't have much faith in them. I think my doctor was fantastic. She was kind of this undercover functional medicine doctor, to be honest. She even gave me the Immune System Recovery Plan, which is a functional medicine book. Great book. It talks about how to rid your body of inflammation or bring down the inflammation in your body by using different foods that are anti-inflammatory, and ridding yourself of the inflammatory foods, which is all extremely beneficial for people with toxic mold. So anyway, my doctor was helpful, but I also think that a lot of the things that she taught me really were just to kickstart me on my own research journey. Because she didn't know anything either. And she was researching this stuff in her free time, and I don't expect most doctors to do that. I think that's quite rare. And I think people can heal on their own. I consider myself a person who's healed pretty much on their own. It's hard to say for sure if this is the case, but I think it helped having her confirmation this is toxic mold. Like, oh yeah, this makes sense for you guys. But realistically, our symptoms should have given us the clue. And I think for the most part, the things that she did teach us were things that we probably eventually would have learned on our own. And I don't think most doctors would even do that much. So, healing on your own is possible. And if you have toxic mold, I just encourage you to try to find what works for you. Again, I do have a Facebook page, Healing from Toxic Mold. the photo of me. And yeah, I can share what I've done, and that might help. But I think there's a lot of different natural ways to do anything in life. And doctors typically aren't very interested in doing the natural ways to heal. So that's all I have to say on that.